A lot of you ask me similar questions or make certain statements such as, how do you know about this style of music? Or you're too young to know about this type of music? The major reason I claim my musical expertise is the way it is mainly due to this lady, my heart, my grandmother, whom I sadly lost in 2019. She was a huge admirer of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Thus, this documentary is dedicated not just to the amazing group, but also to my grandmother. So with that being said, let's jump into the video.
He started with and relies heavily on brother Verdine on bass. Younger brother Fred plays drums. Philip Bailey is the fellow with the clear falsetto. Al McKay plays rhythm guitar. Andrew Woolfolk is the saxophone player. Ralph Johnson, percussionist and vocalist. Johnny Graham plays guitar. And Larry Dunn on synthesizers and keyboards rounds out the group.
In the 80s is Earth, Wind, and Fire. In less than 20 years, they've sold over 20 million records, and they're still going strong.
Where did it? I think Earth, Wind, and Fire came out of a need, a dual need, a need for myself as an individual to realize my total potential, in a sense of speaking, and also, from another sense, it came from a part of me wanting to render itself to humanity. That's why we have the message music and the whole thing of associating us with a spirituality concept. You know what I'm saying?
We just cut records every year based on what was happening at the time. You know, we pretty much mimicked what was going on then, and never really knew what we were going to do the next album. People would say, what direction are you going to take the next record? You don't know until you get there.
Yeah, the sound became commercial. The sound in the beginning wasn't commercial sound.
No, it wasn't.
It's something that after you hear it a while, it becomes commercial because it sells, you know. But we never really tried to put ourselves in a commercial bag. We just was always in a sense of searching for something that we could present wholeheartedly to the people.
Tom Hoving with a show business profile of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Morality, good songwriting, and 9 talented men, and assemble them in a certain way. Well, you might get one of the top musical groups in the world. That's what happened with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire may be, in my opinion, the best R&B band of all time.
They were the Rolling Stones of black music for me. They were the great live band.
Thank you very much. Our gifts have truly made room for us before great men, and as you honor us, we know that you definitely honor those who've come before us, who've inspired us, and many of whom are here tonight. You honor a lot of hard work and dedication to just a dream and just the music that we love. To these guys that we're together on the stage tonight for the first time in 20 years, all the original members, we're excited. But you also honor a man with vision and tenacity and courage, one who had a dream and tackled that dream and fought against every obstacle. And now with his own personal obstacles, I'm sure that he will courageously attack that obstacle like he has every other one, and I'm sure he will win. Help us, ladies and gentlemen, tonight to honor our visionary, our leader, Maurice White.
This band was among the most musically proficient, critically acclaimed, and financially successful funk bands of the 1970s. Their live performances were frequently as intricate and spectacular as George Clinton's P-Funk empire. More than merely flexibility for its own sake, the group's eclecticism was part of a larger idea guided by a cosmic, mystical mysticism and an inspiring positivism not seen since the early days of Sly and the Family Stone. Not everything they did was successful, but at their peak, this ensemble appeared to take everything that came before them and wrap it up in one dizzying and beautiful package. The centerpiece of today's video is all about the greatest band of all time, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Before we start, Let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to be sure you won't miss on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. This story begins in Chicago, Illinois in 1969 when Maurice White founded Earth, Wind & Fire. He had previously refined his skills as a session drummer for Chess Records, working on tunes by Fontella Bass, Billy Stewart and Etta James, among others. In 1967, he succeeded Red Holt in the famed jazz group the Ramsey Lewis Trio when he was exposed to the kalimba, an African thumb piano that he would play extensively in subsequent ventures. In 1969, he quit Lewis Group to begin a songwriting collaboration with keyboardist Don Whitehead and singer Wade Flemings. This rapidly turned into a band called the Salty Peppers, who signed with Capitol and had a regional success with La La Time. When a follow-up album failed, White opted to relocate to Los Angeles with most of the band, renaming them Earth, Wind & Fire after the three elements in his astrological chart. When Maurice got his brother bassist, Birdie White, to join him on the West Coast in 1970, the lineup included Whitehead, Flemings, female singer Sherry Scott, guitarist Michael Bill, tenor saxophonist Chip Washington, trombonist Alex Thomas, and drummer Yaakov Ben Israel. This group secured a new deal with Warner Bros. And released their self-titled first album in late 1970. Many critics found it intriguing and ambitious, similar to his 1971 follow-up, The Need of Love. Neither the song nor debut album received much commercial attention, despite a growing fan base on college campuses and a high-profile performance on the soundtrack to Melvin Van Peebles' groundbreaking black independent film Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. Dissatisfied with the results, White dismantled the original edition of the band in 1972, leaving just his brother Verdine. He assembled a new lineup that included female vocalist Jessica Cleaves, flute and sax player Ronnie Laws, guitarist Roland Bautista, keyboardist Larry Dunn, and percussionist Ralph Johnson. However, the most significant new addition was singer Philip Bailey, who was poached from a different R&B band called Friends in Love. After witnessing the group open for John Sebastian in New York, Clive Davis signed them to CBS, where they made their debut in 1972 with Last Days in Time. Laws and Bautista left at the end of the year and were replaced by Reedman Andrew Woolfolk and guitarists Al McKay and Johnny Graham. It was at this point that the band really got going. Ironically, Cleave's final album with the group was 1973's Head to the Sky.
At the age of 23, White joined the highly successful Ramsey Lewis Trio. 4 years later, he started his own group. After a change of record companies and personnel, the only woman, Jessica Cleaves, left the group. They had their first solid hit, Head to the Sky. The polish and splash is not yet a part of Earth, Wind & Fire in this early television appearance. But the group's signature, the message of universal peace and understanding, is already there.
This album considerably increased their cult following, and the 1974 follow-up, Open Our Eyes, became their first true hit. It was their first collaboration with producer, arranger, and sometimes songwriting colleague Charles Stedtme, who helped simplify their style for more appeal. It also included another White brother, Fred, who was hired as a second drummer. The single Mighty Mighty became the band's first top 10 hit on the R&B charts, though pop radio shied away from its black pride subtext and the minor hit. Kalimba Story brought Maurice White's infatuation with African sounds to the airwaves. Open Our Eyes went gold, laying the groundwork for the band's breakout success. In 1975, the bands finished work on another film soundtrack, this time for a music business thriller called That's the Way of the World. The group hurried out their soundtrack of the same name ahead of time, despite being skeptical of the film's economic chances. The film failed, but the record did well as lead single, the love and encouragement song, Shining Star, soared to the top of both the R&B and pop charts. Propelling the band to mainstream fame, it subsequently earned a Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance by a Group. The album also reached #1 on both the pop and R&B charts and went double platinum. Its title tune peaked at #5 on the R&B list, and it included Bailey's hallmark ballad, Reasons. White leveraged the newfound money to transform the band's live presentation into a spectacular, effects-filled spectacle, which later expanded to incorporate feats planned by magician Douglas Henning. The band also had a permanent horn section, the Phoenix Horns, led by saxophonist Don Merrick. Their growing performance experience was documented later that year on the double LP collection Gratitude, which became their second consecutive #1 record and contained one side of new studio material. Sing a Song reached the pop top 10 and the R&B top 5, and the ballad Can't Hide Love and the title track were also successful. Sadly, during the 1976 recordings for the band's second studio album, Spirit, Charles Stepney passed suddenly of a heart attack. Maurice White took up the arranging tasks, but the Stepney produced. Getaway managed to top the R&B charts posthumously. Spirit naturally did well on the charts, peaking at #2. Meanwhile, White was involved in the production of other artists, including The Emotions and Denise Williams, as well as working with his former boss Ramsey Lewis. 1977's All in All was another strong effort that charted at #3 and spawned the R&B smashes Fantasy, and the chart-topping Serpentine Fire. Meanwhile, The Emotions topped the pop charts with the White Helm smash, Best of My Love. The following year, White founded his own label, ARC, and the band appeared in the mostly disastrous film version of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, who turned in a fine cover of the Beatles' Got to Get You Into My Life, which became their first top 10 pop hit since. Sing a Song released before year's end. The Best of Earth, Wind, Fire Volume 1 produced another top 10 hit in R&B, #1 in the newly recorded September. 1979's I Am included the band's most obvious homage to disco, a blockbuster collaboration with The Emotions called Boogie Wonderland, which reached the top 10. The ballad After the Love Has Gone performed even better, finishing one spot shy on the top of the charts. Although I Am became the band's 6th consecutive multi-platinum album, there were hints that the group's creative explosion of the previous several years was slowing.
They produced an album a year and eventually managed to pile up 6 consecutive double platinum albums, a phenomenal success in the record industry. Double platinum means 2 million albums sold. As their success grew, so did the group's interest in Eastern philosophies and a host of religions, interest reflected in the graphics on album covers.
Faces snapped the string of hits the band had. Later, Guitars McKay left. While 1981's Raise produced a top 5 single and an R&B chart topper in Let's Groove. There was a noticeable fall in consistency by the time the band released its following album. Powerlight in 1983, ARC had dissolved and the Phoenix Horns had been disbanded to save money. After the underwhelming Electric Universe debuted at the end of the year, White disbanded the band to just take a vacation. Meanwhile, Verdine White became a producer and video director, while Philip Bailey launched a solo career, scoring a mainstream hit with the Phil Collins duet. Easy Lover Collins also frequently used the Phoenix Horns on his 1980s albums, both solo and with Genesis. In 1987, Bailey rejoined with the White Brothers, Andrew Woolfolk, Ralph Johnson, and new guitarist Sheldon Reynolds for the album Touch the World. It was surprisingly successful, delivering 2 R&B hits, Thinking of You, and the #1 System of Survival. Heritage, released in 1990, was a forced attempt to modernize the group's sound with guest performances by Sly Stone and MC Hammer. Its failure signaled the end of the group's relationship with Columbia. They returned to Reprise in 1993 with a more traditional sounding Millennium, but were discarded after the record failed to regain its commercial status despite a Grammy nomination for Sunday Morning. That year, another tragedy struck the band when former trumpet leader Don Merrick was unalived in Los Angeles. In 1997, Bailey and the White Brothers released In the Name of Love on a Modest Pyramid label after releasing A Promise. In 2003, a combination of new songs and creative takes on classics, the trio regrouped with other top-tier adult contemporary musicians and produced Illumination in 2005, which includes a duet with smooth jazz superstar Kenny G. The album received a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Album. Earth, Wind & Fire continued to tour and appeared as the program opener on American Idol's Idol Gives back in 2007. 3 years later, Maurice and Verdine White, Bailey, Dunn, and McKay were all inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. The band released Now, Then, and Forever, their first album in 5 years, in 2013. 3 years later, on February 3rd, 2016, at the age of 74, Maurice White passed away from Parkinson's disease.
Earth, Wind & Fire's Maurice White has died. The iconic singer died on Thursday in Los Angeles after a long battle with Parkinson's. He was 74 years old. White's younger brother Verdine, who's also in the band, shared the sad news on Facebook, writing, quote, "My brother, hero, and best friend Maurice White passed away peacefully last night in his sleep. While the world has lost another great musician and legend, our family asks that our privacy is respected as we start what will be a very difficult and life-changing transition in our lives." Known for classic hits like Fantasy and Let's Groove, the Funkadelic Band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. They're also set to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at this year's Grammys. Academy President Neil Portnow said in a statement, "While he will be greatly missed, Maurice's contributions to music will live on."
Sax player Andrew Woolfolk passed on April 24th, 2022 at the age of 71. Drummer Fred White passed on January 1st, 2023 at the age of 67.
Music fans are mourning the loss of a Chicago legend. Fred White, drummer from Earth, Wind & Fire, has died. White was born in Chicago in 1955. Considered a drum prodigy, he played on his first gold record by the age of 16.
Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song from Earth, Wind & Fire?
And I think it typifies that we're here now, we were here then, and we'll be here forever, right?